All right. We have made it to our third and final target for independent and dependent variables, everyone. Yay. So with this third target, we are combining, excuse me, target 1 and target 2. So you've learned about how to identify independent and dependent variables in a word problem and on graphs and graphs and tables. Target 2, you worked on writing those equations. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to analyze the relationship between the independent dependent quantities, the variables, in real world situations using graphs, tables, and equations. So, first thing, easiest thing is just to look at a graph and let's see if we can understand what this graph is talking about. So, if I look over here at our graph, couple things I want to point out. We now, since these are real world situations, we now have not just X and Y, but we have words. Okay, and we want to pay attention because that deals with a situation. So the total price, which is our X axis, and we know that the bottom of that, our X axis, is always what type of variable, independent or dependent? That's right, independent. So the total price compared to the profits on our y-axis. So the line goes, you kind of see how that's labeled. So this, of course, is our dependent. And what we're going to kind of do is we're going to look at our x and a y. So I'm going to go over, and I see how I have this line here. And when I read it, I see that, well, the numbers tend to be going up on the x. So this is 10, and then this one is 30. And I notice that when I look at the y, this is 2, this one's 6, so it's 30, comma 6, this is 10, comma 2, if I'm looking at order pairs. I'm noticing that they're both getting bigger. So basically, and I'm going to use the words, the total price goes up as the profits goes up. So that's how they're related. They're both increasing. And let's look in particular, making sure kind of what we labeled over here in word form. The independent variable is, well, that's total price. And is found on the y-axis. The dependent variable is, let's look, I have it labeled already, profit. And again, that's just right over here. And is found on the y-axis. So we're just kind of looking at the graph and interpreting it. We're going to do one more together, and then you're going to do two on your own when you pause the video. So we're going to explain what's happening in this graph. So first thing I want to do is I want to read it. Well, this is going along the bottom, so this goes with my x-axis. So this is independent. This is along the side, so this goes with my y-axis. So this is dependent. So we have time in minutes and liters of water. Well, that makes sense. We already said time is always independent. So, but I'm looking at this line now and I'm looking, it looks different from my last one. Interesting. So I look, it has 10 or 0 is your x and 10 is your y. So let's look at another x and y. So then I look here, my x is 1 and my y is 9. Let's look at another one. Let's look here. This one looks like 8 and 3. So I go from 1, 0, 3. Those are going up. But my y is going down. I have 10, 9, 3. So interesting. So let's relate this into the words. I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to pick one. The time in minutes, or I'm just going to write time, goes up. So the x numbers are getting larger as the liters of water goes down. Those are getting smaller, which makes sense. If I'm draining a tub or a pool or pouring water out, my time goes by, but my amount of water in that container goes down. So now let's go relate it again. We labeled it over here. We just want to put it in word form. The independent variable is time in minutes and is found on the x-axis. The dependent variable is liters of water and found on the y-axis. Excellent. So hopefully not too hard. You have this one and this one to do. So pause the video and work on those two. And again, you want to do these easy ones before you move on to the harder ones. All right. So if you're here, you've gotten these 2 pages done. If you didn't, pause the video and do that. So here we're going to work on our level 3s. So we're going to analyze the graph, and then we need to write the equation. And to help us, we're going to list or find 3 ordered pairs, so the x comma y. So first thing, I want to analyze this graph. So I'm talking about pretzel cells. I have here, along my y-axis, I have my dependent variable, and that's amount of money collected. And along my x-axis, which is my independent variable, I have number of pretzels sold. So they picked out, I'm going to pick 3 dots. So I'll follow this down. Oh, I don't have a number. So I have a look between 0 and 10. If I'm counting by ones, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not enough. So I can't count by ones, so let's count by twos. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That works. So that would be 10, 12, 14, 16. So this is 16, comma, what's the y? 20. So I can also write that over here, 16, 20. So let's look at another one. Follow this one down. So again, we're counting by 2. So this is 32, comma, 40. So 32 in my x, and you can see it right here, 40 in my y. And again, x is independent, y is dependent. And then my last number, following this down, 40, comma, 50. So 40x, 50y. Now that we've done that, you might be thinking, what am I supposed to do with that? Well, we can do 2 things. First thing, since I have this, I'm going to look. I don't have to write an equation because they have some. I have to figure out which one is correct. Okay? So when you have multiple choice, you can kind of eliminate some choices. Well, knowing what we know about dependent variables and independent and writing equations, we know our dependent will be on one side and our independent will be on another side with add or subtract or multiply and divide and a number. Okay? So dependent is the answer. So our letter here, our variable here is y for our dependent. So I have to look for which one has y here and x on this side with a number. So, well, I have y by itself, so that one's possible here. I have x here by itself, so that's not it because x is independent, which means it has to be with the number. I have y here. Sorry. Could be, because again, y is by itself. I have x by itself, which that's not the answer. So I can cross those out. So right there, just by knowing independent and dependent equations target 2, you eliminated half your choices. So excellent job without even doing really any calculations. So now this is where what I can do, and I'm going to use a calculator. I can take a number y or number for x and substitute it in and see if that equals the y. Okay, So I'm going to check this equation first. So it says y equals 0.8x. So that means times x. So I'm going to use this one here to see if it's right. 16. So I'm going to substitute in 0.8 times, and what number is our x? 16. Now, if this is the correct equation, my number should be my y, which is 20. So let's see. With my handy dandy calculator, I'm going to do 0.8 times 16. That gives me 12.8. That is not 20, so this is not the correct equation. So right now, our correct equation is this, our only one left. Let's prove it. So I'm going to do, I should have laid this out better, y equals 1.25x. And again, that means times x, so I'm going to put a dot there for, now if you don't need to, that's fine. And what number am I going to substitute in? Again, I'm going to do that 16. For x, 1.25 times 16. And if it's the right one, what number should I get? That's right, up here it says 20 because that's in my y. So 1.25 times 16 is 20. Yay! So that is our correct answer. So you can substitute in, which is a skill you guys have. Now let's go over to our other graph over here. And all this means here is that number of pretzels will increase at a rate of 1.25 to make the amount of money you need to collect. So let's look over here at our other graph. Let's go ahead and read it. So again, we have total price, we have independent, we have profit dependent. So that's our x. Our x again is independent. We're going to label the table 2, and our y